Five women, five killers, and five reasons you will never feel completely safe again. You know what? When it's come to the American crime, and one of them was chased down in a foreign country, and one was sold for $500, the price of a used cell phone. One disappeared from her front yard while her brother watched from 20 feet away and couldn't do a single thing about it. One had begged the police multiple times to protect her from the man who was going to kill her. And the last one, her murder wasn't even about her. She died as a message, a business deal gone wrong, warning, wrapped in a body bag. Netflix passed on single one of these. Today we are covering them anyway. But before we get into the cases, I need you to understand something about each of these women because the disturbing part isn't just how they died. It's who they were before someone decided their life isn't matter. And you know what? Moria Wilson was 25 years old. She was a professional cyclist, one of the fastest women on gravel roads in the entire country. She had just won a major race. Her friends said she laughed with her whole face. She was the kind of person who made everyone around her feel like the most interesting person in the room. Kendra Hatcher was 35, a pediatric dentist in Dallas. She spent her days making terrified little kids feel safe in the dentist chair. She was engaged. She had a rescue dog named Bentley, who she talked about like he was her kid. Hello Bobo was 20 years old, nursing student, small town teenage girl, the kind of kid whose biggest worry should have been final week. Celeste Mono was 26. She worked in marketing. Her family decided her as warm, funny, completely alive. She was scared, genuinely scared, for months before she died, and she did everything right. Juliana Redding was 21, pre-med student, daughter of wealthy California daughter. She had plans. She had a future. She had absolutely nothing to do with a business deal with that got her killed. You know, these are the major cases Netflix was not prolonged. But we will deal with these cases. Just, just concentrate. Five women, five completely normal lives. And now we are going to talk about what happened to them. And here, case 1, Moria Wilson, May 11th, 2022, Austin, Texas. Moria Wilson had just arrived in town of a cycling race. She stopped by a friend apartment, a cyclist named Colin Stickland, someone she would had brief romantic connection with a previous year. They were still in a close. They were going for a swim together that evening. What she didn't know, what nobody told her, was that Colin Stickland has a girlfriend, a yoga instructor named Kathleen Armstrong, and Kathleen Armstrong had been tracking Moria Wilson's movements for weeks. Moria went inside the apartment. Kathleen Armstrong drove there, pulled a gun, and shot Moria Wilson 3 times. Moria was found by first responders on the floor. She was dead before the ambulance arrived. She was just 20 years old, 25 years old. The fugitive. Now, here's where the case goes from awful to absolute wild. And this is a part Netflix shouldn't be all over. Because Kathleen Armstrong didn't turn herself in, she ran. She shoot and she sold her car. She cut and dyed her hair. She flew to Costa Rica on a fake ID, told people she was a yoga teacher traveling the world, and literally posted content online while being hunted by a US Marshals. She was on the run for 43 days, and the US Marshal tracked her down in a Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, arrested her, and brought her back to facial trial. And in November 2023, after a lengthy dramatic trial, Kathleen Armstrong was convicted of a murder in a first degree. She was sentenced to 90 years in prison. But here's what I keep coming back to. Moria Wilson had done nothing wrong. She went to visit a friend. She was dead before 9 p.m. And the woman who killed her was a half a around the world posting beach photos and while Moria's family was planning for a funeral. 90 years, good, but it doesn't bring her back. It doesn't unring the bell. And that's the part that stays with you. And you know what? September 2nd, 2015, Dallas. This is about the second case. Kendra Hatcher. Kendra Hatcher has just gotten home from work. She pulled into the parking garage of her upscale apartment complex, the Alamo, in the uptown neighborhood around 8:30 p.m. She never made it to the elevator. A man named Christopher Love was waiting for her in the garage. He attacked her, beat her, and strangled her to death. Then he got in a car and drove away. Security cameras captured everything. Police had footage. They had a suspect. What they need to figure out who hired him. And for $500, the answer came fast. And when it came, it was so cold blooded that the detectives who cracked the case said they had never seen anything quite like it. Kendra's boyfriend, a man named Ricardo Panigua, had an ex girlfriend. Her name was Brenda Delgado. And Brenda Delgado wanted Kendra Hatcher dead, not hurt, not scared, dead. When Brenda reached out a woman named Crystal Cortis who connected her to Christopher Love, the negotiated price for killing a 35 years old pediatric dentist. $500 and a used iPhone. The communication, all of it, was done through WhatsApp. Detectives record the entire conversation, every message, every negotiation. The casual back and forth about taking the human life, like they were arguing about the price of the coach on Facebook Marketplace. And justice and one loosened. Christopher Love was convicted of capital murder in 2018 and sentenced to death. Crystal Cortis pleaded guilty and received 35 years. Brenda Delgado, the one who ordered the hit, was actually a Mexican, and when she was indicated, Mexico refused to extradite her because she faced the death penalty in Texas. And she was eventually extradited from Texas, agreed she would not face capital punishment in 2021. Brenda Delgado was sentenced to life in prison without a parole. Here's your paranoia seeds for this case. Kendra Hatcher did nothing to Brenda Delgado. She didn't even know the woman. She was just dating someone Brenda had previously dated. That's it. That's the entire reason she did. Think about the next time you start seeing someone new. Think about the people in the past that you have never met, that ones who are watching. And you know what? The third case, it's really blow your mind. Holy Bobo. The last morning, April 13th, 2011, Parsons, Tennessee. Holy Bobo was 20 years old, a nursing student at Tennessee Tech. She woke up that morning like any other Wednesday. Her brother Clint was home doing chores outside. At around 7:30 a.m., Clint looked up and saw Holly in a backyard. She was walking towards the tree line with a man in camouflage. He assumed it was her boyfriend. He went back to what he was doing. Holy Bobo was never seen alive again. When the family realized that something was wrong, they called police. Clint described what he saw. Investigators fooled the area and flooded. Dogs picked up a scent that led into the woods and then went to cold. Holly's lunch bag was found near to the tree line. And that was it. 3 years of a silence. For 3 years, a Bobby family was nothing. No Holly, no confirmed suspect, no answers, and just a missing girl from a small Tennessee town and a community that refused to stop looking. In September 2014, 3.5 years after Holly disappeared, human remains were found in a flood in Decatur County. DNA confirmed it was a Holly Bobo. She had been dead for years before her family got a lay her to rest. Investigators eventually zeroed in on a man named Jacari Adams, a local with a criminal history and a connection to the area. The prosecution's case was built on a witness testimony, phone records, and the accounts of the people who claimed they had heard Adams talking about the crime. The trial was completed, messy, There was witness who later recanted. There were questions about evidence handling. Defense attorneys hammered every single weak point. It took years to get a verdict. In September 2017, 6 years after Holly disappeared, Jacari Adams was convicted of 5 degree murder and first-degree murder, especially aggravated kidnapping and aggravated rape. He was sentenced to a life in a prison without the possibility of a parole. And 6 years. Her family waited 6 years for that. And even that, even with a conviction, there are questions that will never fully be answered. What happened to those woods? What were the last things Holly Bobo saw? Those questions don't go away with the verdict. Holly, Holly's mother, Karen Bobo, gave a victim impact statement at sentencing that broke the entire courtroom. She said she just wanted her daughter back, not justice, not a conviction, just her daughter. And there is no amount of prison time in the world that gives a mother that. Anyway, case number 4, Celeste Mano. She did everything right, but she died. Why? In the case that keeps me up at night, not because the crime itself is the most violent on this list, but because of what it says about the systems that are supposed to protect us. Celeste Mano was 26 years old. She lived with her family in a Mando, Victoria, Australia in 2020. A man named Udix Dixon was, I'm sorry, let me back up. The man who killed Celeste was named Lucy Sacco, and Lucy Sacco had been stalking her for months. He had sent her hundreds of messages, showed up at places she frequented, called her repeatedly. When she rejected him, he became threatening. Celeste reported him to police multiple times. Police did nothing. One thing on October 13, 2020, while Celeste was asleep in her own bedroom in her family home, Luis Echo broke in through a window. He stabbed her to death while her family slept in the next room. And the system failed her. Here is the sequence of events. Celeste reported Sacco to police. Police told her to block him on social media. She did. He found other ways to contact her. She reported again. Police filed a report. No restraining order was sought. No threatening assessment was conducted. No welfare check was done and Sacco. He escalated. She escalated her report. The system shrugged. And then he climbed through her bedroom window and took everything from her. You know, Leseko pleaded guilty to murder in 2021. He was sentenced to a minimum of 31 years before parole eligibility. Victoria Police issued a formal apology to Celeste's family. An apology after she was already dead. Her mother, Haji, has spent every day since speaking publicly about domestic violence, about stalking, and what it looks like when institutions fail the women who trust them. She turned her grief into a bulldozer, but she will be the first to tell you she would trade every speech, every police change, every award for one more Tuesday night at the dinner table with her daughter. Is it possible? If someone is stalking you and you report it and nothing happens, please do not take that indications as a sign that you are safe. You are not. You are the only person in the equation who fully understands the danger. Trust the instinct. Trust in louder than any police report that gets filed and forgotten. And the final case, Juliana Redding. Wrong place in the family tree. Juliana Redding was 21 years old. She was studying pre-medicine in California, the daughter of Dr. Stephen Redding, a successfully anthologist, was significantly wealth in early 2008. Dr. Redding had entered into a business dealing with a man named Kello Sopax, employer, a pharmaceutical entrepreneur named Juliana Kim's employer. Okay, let me give you the straight version of this because the financial web is genuinely complicated. That Redding had put money in a business venture. The deal went sideways. He pulled out, taking back approximately $4.7 million in a process. The other party was furious. On March 15, 2008, 1 week after Dr. Redding backed on the deal, Her daughter Juliana was found strangled to death in her Santa Monica apartment. She was 21 years old. She had nothing to do with her father's business. She was a warning, a message, a punishment, a bizarre trial. The case took 4 years to go to trial. The suspect was a woman named Kelly Sopok, a mixed martial arts fighter who had connections to the business figure at the center of the deal. Prosecutors argued the park had been hired to enter, threaten, and kill Juliana, and that the murder was a direct relation against her father. The 2013 trial ended in a guilty verdict. The jury said physical evidence was insufficient. Prosecutors was devastated. The Redding family was devastated. Then, in a second trial in 2016, Kelly Sopak was tried again in separate charges. She eventually pleaded no contest and received a sentence of time served. No one is currently serving a prison sentence for the murder of Juliana Redding. And, you know, her father made a business decision, a legal business decision. He pulled out a deal. He had everything right to exit. And 7 days later, his 21 years old daughter was dead in her apartment. And the person mostly credibly linked to it walked out of courtroom free. Juliana Redding deserved better. Her father deserved better. And the American justice system failed the both in a way that should make every single person watching this video furious. And the paranoia plant. You know what? Here's what these five cases have in common. None of these women were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were in a perfectly normal places. Moria Wilson was visited a friend. Kendra Hatcher was coming home from work. Polly Bobo was in her own backyard. Celeste Mano was asleep in her bedroom. Juliana Redding was home, asleep, coming home from work, visiting a friend, her own backyard. There is no safe location in these stories. There is no moment where you watch, think this and think, well, I would never be there because you would have been in every single one of those places. The man your friends is seeing. Do you know who is watching him? The parking garage at your apartment. Does it has in cameras that actually work? The stalker who keeps messaging you in Instagram, did you report him? Did the report go anywhere? And the business deal your father is currently in, would you even know if it is went wrong? I'm not saying this is scare you. I'm saying it because the five women were real. Their families are real. And the best way to honor them is never printed that this only happens to other people. The hunting line is five women woke up on the morning in Texas, in Tennessee, in Victoria, in California, and they didn't know that morning was the last one. They made they made coffee. They checked their phones. They had plans, big ones and small ones, weddings and finals and races and brunches that were never going to happen. And somewhere out of the tonight, someone is going to bed without knowing the same thing. I hope it's not someone you love. So, if definitely, if it shocks you, subscribe because the next case is worse and you need to know about it. Subscribe, like, and print your comment on the comment box. Sincerely, I'm waiting for your opinions. Thank you very much.